Today, we are diving into the absolutely fascinating and, let's be honest, often fiery debate around the connection between ancient Hindu philosophy and modern science. It's a story that weaves together cosmic parallels, some pretty serious political controversy, and then finds some surprising common ground right inside the human brain. So let's just start with this. This quote is from the Bhagavata Purana. We're talking thousands of years before the multiverse was a cool plot device in movies. This ancient text was describing a cosmos filled with, and I quote, innumerable universes, all moving around like atoms. I mean, come on, that sounds strikingly modern, doesn't it? And that really tees up the big question we're going to tackle today. Are these just beautiful, poetic coincidences? Or is it possible that ancient wisdom and modern science are actually trying to tell us the very same story about how reality works? Okay, so first up, let's dive into the perspective that says yes, absolutely, there is a deep and profound cosmic connection here. First, you have to get your head around the timelines in Hindu cosmology, which are just mind-bendingly vast. A kalpa, which is just a single day for the creator god Brahma, is 4.32 billion years long. To put that in perspective, that's about the age of our planet Earth. And his entire lifespan, a mahakalpa, that stretches for over 300 trillion years, which is way, way longer than scientists currently estimate the age of our own universe to be. And this massive cyclical idea of time is all wrapped up in the concept of the Brahmanda, or the cosmic egg. The idea here is that our universe isn't some one-time event. No, it's just one part of an endless cycle of creation, existence, destruction, and then recreation. And it's just one of countless other universes doing the same thing. The philosophy also gives us this idea of Maya. Now, this doesn't mean the world isn't real to us. It very much is. But it suggests that its material form, the stuff we can measure, is fundamentally temporary, impermanent. Some people have compared this ancient idea to modern theories that question the very nature of reality, almost like we're living in a kind of incredibly advanced virtual reality. Okay, and this brings us to a really crucial point of comparison. On one side, you have the Vedic idea of a unified field of pure consciousness, this unbounded, unchanging source from which everything in the universe emerges. And on the other side, well, you have the holy grail of modern physics, a unified field theory, which describes a single all-pervading field whose vibrations or excitations create all the forces and particles we see. You can see why the parallels here get people really excited. So for proponents like Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, this is no accident. They argue that Vedic science and modern science are really just two different paths leading to the same destination. One is subjective and based on inner experience. The other is objective and based on external measurement. But both, they say, are ways of understanding the very same underlying reality. But, of course, the story is never quite that simple, is it? And this is where the conversation takes a sharp turn, from philosophy to politics. We have to look at the powerful counterargument that these parallels are sometimes co-opted for very specific ideological goals. This quote, which is based on the work of the scholar Mira Nanda, really gets to the heart of the critique. She warns about something she calls reactionary modernity. It's this idea where science gets twisted to fit nationalist or religious agendas, which completely undermines the whole point of science being a universal human endeavor. So critics will point out that this attempt to indigenize science can be incredibly selective. Scientific ideas get celebrated, but only if they seem to back up what's in the Vedas. And they argue that this completely distorts the scientific process, which is all about following the evidence and being willing to change your mind, not about trying to prove that ancient texts were right all along. But here's the thing. There's a totally different history of science in India. You have social reformers like B.R. Ambedkar and Perrier. For them, science and rationality weren't about proving religious ideas. They were powerful tools for liberation, a way to challenge deeply entrenched, oppressive social structures like the caste system. And that creates a really stark contrast. From this critical point of view, when science is used to serve an ideology, it stops being about inquiry and it becomes about dogma. And that, they argue, can be a huge barrier to real scientific progress. So this leaves us with a really tough question, doesn't it? How do we untangle the genuine philosophical exploration from the political hijacking of science? Well, maybe the way forward is to shift our focus, to move away from these grand cosmic debates and look toward the tangible, testable common ground that's being discovered in neuroscience. And this is where the dialogue becomes incredibly productive, because instead of debating different interpretations of ancient texts, scientists can now actually empirically measure the effects of ancient practices like meditation and mindfulness on the living human brain. And what they're finding is just remarkable. This chart summarizes a whole bunch of studies, and it shows that regular mindfulness practice leads to measurable physical changes in your brain. We're talking a thicker cortex in areas linked to attention, more activity in the prefrontal cortex, your self-regulation hub, and a less reactive amygdala, which is basically the brain's alarm system for stress. So you can see this clear biological pathway starting to emerge. The regular practice strengthens the parts of the brain that regulate your emotions, and that in turn helps to quiet down the parts that trigger fear and anxiety. This isn't just philosophy anymore. This is a testable mechanism. And the real-world results are just as concrete. I mean, clinical studies have shown a whole range of benefits, everything from lower pain perception and reduced anxiety to better emotional resilience and cognitive control. These ancient practices are delivering verifiable, modern results. So this, right here, feels like a genuinely successful synthesis. It's a model where ancient wisdom isn't being used to try and validate science. Instead, science is being used to understand, verify, and then apply the benefits of these ancient practices. So, to kind of pull all of this together, we can really look at this relationship in three distinct ways. First, through the lens of inspiration, seeing those profound cosmic connections. Second, through the critical lens of ideology, being aware of how science can be co-opted. And finally, through the lens of investigation, where ancient practices meet modern, empirical, neurobiological testing. And ultimately, what this all shows us is that there really is no simple answer here. The relationship isn't a straightforward choice between conflict or harmony. It's a messy, complicated, and deeply human dance between big ideas, powerful political forces, and careful, methodical research. And maybe that just leaves us with a final thought to chew on. In our constant search for knowledge, perhaps the real challenge isn't just about finding the right answers. Maybe it's about learning how to live with and even appreciate the profound complexity of our questions.